Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Babylon Bee interview show. I'm Kyle Mann, and I'm the editor-in-chief of a website called the Babylon Bee. With me is my friend, Ethan Nicole.
Kyle's high or something. I don't know what's going on with Kyle. Kyle's high on Bridget Phetasy because we just interviewed Bridget Phetasy.
Yep. Some grade A Phetasy.
And, we've had her on before back in the audio days.
Why do you look at me like that? You looked at me like with disgust.
You just disgust me.
She was one of our first interviews, and I just remembered I was going to tell her this when she was here, and I forgot that I think she's the first person we added a disclaimer to.
Yeah, we had a little disclaimer in the email.
No, even on the website it says
it was weird territory we're getting into. Like,
well, she might have been the first.
I think she may even call herself a Christian. I'm not sure what she calls herself, but she's very, look at her stuff with caution.
We had talked to Michael Malice already. I think.
Yeah,
we might have done a thing with him too, because we said something about like this one has.
She has some more visually risque things you may come across. So that was the warning. You didn't say that? Oh, you're just getting me back.
I don't know. But Bridget Phetasy hosts podcasts like The Dumpster Fire and Walk-Ins Welcome, and she's kind of interesting because she's like middle of the road, kind of.
We share a lot of the same guests. I get a lot of my ideas for guests from her. I got the idea from Kira Davis from her and James Lindsay. And so I just pirate her guests. I was a guest on her show. Mm-hmm. So, anyway.
Not to brag or anything. Mm-hmm. But she's coming on, and it's going to be great. We also are introducing our subscriber lounge today.
Yeah, this is a big day for subscribers.
Subscribers only, you'll get to see the lounge. Actually, they might. I don't know if we're going to have the lounge. No, we probably won't. This will probably be the first one.
Maybe. Yeah.
Depends on how they get released.
But there'll be preview footage, right? That'll be like coming up, and then it'll be preview footage.
Like,
there.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I wish I could see more of that. The leather chairs.
So this conversation is fun. Take some
a lot of
twists
fun.
And turns. Some loop-de-loops.
Didn't need notes on this one. We just went.
We just talked because we're that good at interviewing.
Somebody who talks we pop a question in and just sit back.
She talked a lot.
Yeah. It's not as the best.
Which is great because then I can sit there and and you just interject with Yeah.
And if you act like you're going to start and then let them go. And then I don't know.
And then I have to formulate.
People came for the interview.
And then I have to formulate a question, and then Ethan jumps in before I can, and then I'm like, cool. And then I don't talk for like 20 minutes.
You try to remember what you're going to ask?
Yeah. Anyway, this is a good interview, so enjoy it.
Please do.
I look like a queen.
I guess we could not.
The queen bee.
Oh, the queen bee.
Queen bee.
This reminds me of my buddy head days.
The what days?
The buddy head days.
What's that?
It was a website back in the 2000s, and it was huge in the music scene in LA. Okay. And my friend Travis Keller started it. He was from Idaho, and I was the only girl. And I didn't even have a name. They just called me the Buddy Head Girl. And that's the vibe I have right now.
Yeah, you're surrounded.
The Babylon Bee girl.
It's very, I wouldn't say masculine, but male.
It is.
Around here.
Like, do you have any critiques for our decorations here? Do we need to add a feminine touch?
No, I like them.
Is it nice?
But I'm obsessed with the boys. So I'm the wrong. My taste in all things pop culture is basically that of like a 13-year-old teenage boy. Like Michael Bay movies are my favorite.
Beavis and Butthead. Yeah.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle reboot.
Yeah, I would love that.
Yeah. Another one? Like Michael Bay reboots the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles?
That would be amazing. I don't see why.
Reboots the reboot?
You could play
They're all lips.
You could play Megan Fox's character.
Yeah.
The new ones. April.
That would be disappointing for a lot of people.
I'm looking up Buddy Head. I was trying to figure out what you're talking about. Music Webzine, an independent record label formed by Travis Keller.
Yep.
Summer
And
of
so-
98 in Hollywood.
Yeah, that was those are the good old days
Good old
back
days,
in Hollywood. And they were just punks, and they would do all kinds of they had this gossip column, and it was infamous. It was just every single person in town was reading it. They did things like post Courtney Love's cell phone number on there. They broke into Fred Durst's office, stole one of his hats, and then auctioned it to like a domestic violence site. They used to do things like, it was
crazy
amazing.
kids.
It was crazy kids. And then somebody offered to buy them for millions of dollars, like Interscope or something. And they were like, no, man, we're punk rock. And we sold out, and we would be selling out. And then they didn't. And now I think that
I regret that.
yeah. I think they're all junkies now. No, I'm just kidding.
I would sell it to the big. I would sell the Babylon Bee to a big.
Yeah, and just make a new thing. What's an alternative to Babylon? I'm thinking something Hornet.
Hornet.
The
Wasp.
The murder hornets.
the murder hornet. The weekly murder hornet.
The weekly wasp.
The weekly wasp.
So what's that story? Because you aren't from LA, right? You moved out here.
Yeah, I moved here.
You moved here with a dream and a glitter in your eye.
I did. It's really funny. I've been writing about this because I'm trying to write a book about just this weird time and space that we've all ended up in. And it's taken me back to why I originally moved to LA.
It wasn't this.
No.
You don't hear that story
Being
anymore.
a political commentator
moving to LA
in your garage.
I really...
That sounds bad. I didn't mean that in the bad way.
No, it's perfect. I mean, my favorite part of editing Dumpster Fire is every week when we sit down and it's me in front of like my garage, and I'm like, what have I become? And people are always like, you need to change your background to get an actual set. I'm like, no, it makes me laugh hysterically every time. It puts me right in my place, humbly where I belong.
She's looking for a set designer.
They were already talking before.
Okay.
He's like,
Just making
no.
sure.
Won't have anything to do with that Dumpster Fire. It is kind of funny too that my show Dumpster Fire, I was such a dumpster fire for so many
Thoroughly
years.
plugged. Yes. Just kidding.
Thoroughly plugged. Oh yeah.
Do you have any shows that you do?
No. I do. Walk-ins welcome. You should come on sometime.
Oh, come on. You invited him and you didn't invite me.
I invited myself.
Oh, you invited yourself.
I think, no, you invited me.
That's so
actually.
weird.
Yeah, no, I kind of invited myself.
You emailed and said, hey.
It's when I was promoting Bears Wanna Kill You, so I was trying to get on any blue check that was following me. I was like, hey,
you'd slum it with anyone. Even.
You guys missed my mocking joke of myself while you were focused on me promoting my show. It's unbelievable.
She was telling her story about moving to LA.
Yeah.
With
Party in the USA.
shimmer in her eye.
Yeah.
It was the class. But to show you how delusional I was, I had these big dreams of like sitting at a place in Malibu, flipping through scripts because I wanted to be an actress, and watching dolphins and doing yoga with a private instructor, smoking that sweet Kelly weed, and being on set and drinking a Diet Coke. And I was writing this. I'm like, to show you how delusional I was, I don't even like Diet Coke. Like, even in my dreams of my future self, I'm drinking something I don't even like. It's not even real. That's not even realistic. That small detail. And it definitely ended up, it's so cliche. I mean, I'm just a giant, I'm like an after school special in real life. It's like even the cult thing is kind of in there, you know, take them all, mix them all together, and that.
But it's a different ending because most after school specials don't end with.
No, they usually,
whatever you are.
They usually end up, a sad, sober pundit in a garage. Caught in the crossfire of the culture war. No, I'm having a great time. This has been my best year of my life. I know people are struggling, but.
Yeah, 2020 is great.
For people like to just sit back and laugh at everything. Yeah.
Well, I was thinking that people say like 2020 is the worst year of all time. And I'm like, probably not.
Yeah.
Like I can think of.
There's been a lot of bad things that have happened in the world.
Yeah.
Well, and I think it's all so personal. So, and then if you did have a good year, you're definitely not going to be just like, this has been the greatest year of my life. I'm killing it. On social media, 2020, best year ever.
That's what all the celebs are doing. It was the Kardashians that were like, I rented out this private island for all my friends for a birthday. It's like, read the room, people.
They don't care.
Got a hologram set up.
They do not care. That was like, she did that, then she got, internet piled on for doing it and became a meme immediately. Right. And then she posted the next video on Instagram was her being like, and I'm feeling good. And it was her coming out of the water in her island. Like, why didn't you just give us 2 fingers, Kim, and say, like, kiss it? I mean, she's ridiculous. But I kind of love her.
Yeah. I mean, I would do it if I could. I would rent the private island.
Yeah, I would never leave the private island. That's my question.
Just buy it.
Why? Why did you rent it? Why not just go live there? Yeah, it's been an interesting. So yeah, I came out here when I was about 20, right after rehab, and I don't recommend that. And then
oh, that's why you're drinking the Diet Coke and the
yeah.
And the fantasy. I was trying to figure out why is Diet Coke the fantasy, but got it.
Yeah. Yep. I think at that time. Well, and it just seemed very like that cliche thing you drink on set.
I've never heard this. I've never heard this stereotype or this trope of drinking Diet Coke.
I don't know. I mean, even in Tropic Thunder, he was like, "Get me a Diet Coke." Okay. I feel like it's a very common trope of Hollywood.
Rated R, so I haven't seen it.
Oh, that's probably good. It might traumatize you.
Yeah, and it probably couldn't be made today.
No.
And it was only like 12 years ago.
I remember when it came out. I was like, "How's he getting away with this?"
Yeah, that was 2008.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know the exact year.
And it took him 10 years to get it made. If you look in,
oh really?
Yeah, I think he wrote the script 10 years earlier and wanted to make it for like 10 years. So
when he wrote it, it was borderline. When it came out, it was a little over the line, and now it would just be completely canceled.
I can't believe they haven't canceled Robert Downey for that role.
No, they like it.
That was the funny thing too. When it came out, everybody got mad about the special needs character, and I was like, Robert Downey Jr. is in blackface. This is what you guys are getting angry about? It seems like a strange thing to be.
Is this like Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood? We're getting people showing up from the neighborhood.
Mail delivery. It's Mr. McFeely. No. Mail time.
This is where I get converted.
Yeah.
Have you believe in Jesus Christ, your Lord and Savior, Bridget?
Yeah. It's killing our skin. Weird. Killing our skin going door to door.
The Mormons show up and put our guests.
I was trying to think who it could be that would surprise her.
Who would surprise?
Bridget Phetasy, but
like a Maury Povich kind of moment.
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
Who would it be?
Oh, let's see.
I was on that show, Baggage. It was what's his name who had the show? Oh my gosh, why am I blanking?
I'm a good Googler.
Okay, no, but it's the guy.
What do you mean no?
He's responsible for the culture that we live in now.
Jerry Springer.
Yes.
Jerry Springer.
Thank you.
Dang it.
I am Google.
You beat me by a second.
So Jerry Springer had this show Baggage.
Never heard of it.
And you had to go on and tell your baggage, and then you got picked basically. I don't really remember the rules. It was back when I was smoking a lot of weed and drinking still. I was really skinny though. And which is all that matters.
I need to try that.
And then I talked about how I was a recovering heroin addict, or how I used to do heroin. And when I'll never forget this, I needed the money really badly, which is why I did it, because it was like pretty good money for like half of a day. And then the guy had to pick like between 3 of us, and the whole audience was going, heroin, heroin, heroin.
Wow.
Another one of those moments where I'm like, what has my life become? You got this weird game show and everyone's cheering heroin. I've never told that story.
What do you
I did win.
You win something?
I mean, I won whatever I got paid. I think we were supposed to go on a date or something, but
Oh, okay.
Never did. Yeah,
It's
it was
like a
like a
matchmaker
dating.
type
Yeah,
show?
but it was all about like what your baggage was.
Huh.
I can't find it.
No, I don't know that somebody had people
Google has
over
failed me.
people over time have definitely reached out and been like, "Were you on baggage?" I go, yeah, I forgot about that. I was really broke.
This bio site says it has your biography, age, key, height, and weight.
Oh. That's, I think, like completely done by Russian
Wackos?
bots.
Oh, okay.
No, my friends and I were reading my wherever the information about
This is
me is,
creepy.
and it is hilarious.
You need to bleep the name of that site because that's creepy. What they have on there.
It's hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I came out, and then I moved back east actually after 2 years of being here. And then I got married to a Russian, divorced, and had a whole other life. I was waiting tables back on the East Coast, and then came back again when I was 27. And I still came back with the idea of, writing like science fiction shows and comedy, and started doing comedy as a dare, basically. And it never occurred to me that I could do that.
Yeah.
I just thought it was something geniuses like Robin Williams did. It didn't seem something. I always respected it and memorized every comedy, like Delirious, I knew by heart. And it never occurred to me that was something that I could do. And then the first time I ever did it, I was like, oh my
donkey.
Gosh.
Thank you.
Why?
Will be bleeped.
Oh my gosh. Why?
goodness.
Oh my golly gee. I'll just say, oh my goose, which is my favorite alternative.
I like that. Yeah, their names should be taken in vain. I hate goose.
It makes it sound like you think geese are gods or something.
Geese are mean though.
Yeah,
That's true.
they deserve it. They're evil.
Yeah, they're evil creatures. So I forgot what I was saying completely. I started thinking about geese attacking me.
Yeah, I got off on geese too.
Diet Coke, Russians.
Oh,
We
yeah.
talked
Married
about
a Russian.
Married a Russian.
Came
Came
back.
back,
Came
27.
Yep. And then I just, doing stand up. So
Yeah.
Stand up.
the first time I ever did it, I was wondering why nobody ever told me that I could do that when I was saying ridiculous and extreme things like at Christmas dinner, Like no one in my family ever thought to be like, there's an outlet for this and it's not here. You can be drunk and feisty on stage and maybe get paid for it. So that was a revelation, and then I kind of started doing that I was grinding pretty hard, and then I always wanted to be a writer, but it never occurred to me that I could be until I was working for Buddyhead when I was in my early years in LA. It's been a winding road. Then you do whatever you have to do when you're trying to make it in LA. And so I was a yoga instructor. I worked with kids with autism. I waited tables. I had this like corporate origami job that I called it, where you just went into an office in Beverly Hills and folded like boxes and you got paid per box that you folded. So it was like speed folding. It was wild.
Was there any purpose to it? Or
You would put, it was for jewelry, but we were
I thought
like,
some guy did a power trip, like, fold these boxes.
Make me 3,000
Yes, fold.
25 cents a box, woman. I've done a lot of that kind of repetitive work. I've worked on farms up north in Northern California. And so, yeah, I mean, I've been, and then I was writing all the time. I wrote a movie that I don't think can get made anymore because I think it's already been made now.
It's got blackface.
It's got, Robert Downey Jr. in black.
Weirdly, I did watch Tropic Thunder like 100 times when I was writing this movie because I wanted it to be in the same kind of tone. And I pitched it around, actually, even to some of the big agencies. And then weirdly, another movie got made that was kind of similar. But I'm sure it's just a coincidence. And then lots of scripts. And then I got kind of into Twitter in 2013. And that's where I got hooked up with somebody from Playboy, and then then I fell into the middle of the culture wars, and here I am.
You guys bleep that out. Playboy. I'm just kidding. No, I'm just joking. I'm so dry. Please bleep that out.
I don't know if he's serious.
Patrick's all nodding. He's all, yeah.
Yeah, you got
it. Yeah.
Well, you also, in the pinnacle of your Hollywood career, you were on Curb Your Enthusiasm.
That was the pinnacle. I think that's as good as it's going to get.
Did you get a Diet Coke on set?
I didn't.
Sad.
I don't like Diet Coke. No. I could have had a Diet Coke.
But you could have if you want.
Yeah.
So that's it.
That's what matters. That was amazing. But those were those moments. Even doing the voiceover stuff for you guys, I love doing it so much. Here's a plug for your show. I love doing it because it's the reason I came out here is to do that kind of stuff. Just voices and be funny and make stuff and not be so caught up in like all the politics and the culture war and all. I didn't care. I watched a lot of Jon Stewart growing up, and I think that a lot of it just was not. I watched it, but it was like, oh, that space seems like it's horrible.
That's how you ended up getting into heroin?
Pretty much, yeah. It was around the same. It's funny, we were talking about Chappelle's show, and that came on. I was watching some of the 3 that never got released, and just... I forgot how that show was out during a time in my life when I was just drinking and doing a lot of drugs. And the minute I heard the Chappelle show, I was like, trigger alert. I want a line and some tequila right now. It was crazy. I was like, wow, that was a really weird Pavlovian response I didn't know existed.
Jingle.
Yeah. No idea.
Play it.
Yep.
Yeah, I just start twitching.
What happens.
Yeah.
Play it. Get out the tequila.
It's weird how that stuff happens. Yeah, no, it's been a crazy journey, and this is I guess I feel like I'm in a giant game of improv where I'm like, yes, and now I'll go on Glenn Beck.
Did you ever have that? Is that just your personality, or did you ever have that most people have this, unless you're in the conservative group, the idea of even associating with Glenn Beck, you're like, ugh.
Yeah, I was worried. It's funny. I remember when Ben Shapiro was the first person who ever gave me my first break in media. And it was during the Kavanaugh stuff. And I had been just rage tweeting about how I felt that sexual assault victims were really getting the worst end of the stick in all of the discussions that were happening and being overlooked. I'm like, the way that everyone's talking about this is hurting the people that they're purporting to try and care about. They don't. Newsflash. And and so his producer reached out and said, we would love for you to come on and be an independent and kind of speak to this on a panel during his election special on Fox. And I looked at it and knew I was going to say yes almost immediately, but immediately knew, I remember talking to a good friend, and he said, if you don't say yes to this, what are you even doing? Why are you even saying what you're saying? And you might as well just say yes to it. And I don't think I still understood completely how, I had stumbled into the culture wars kind of in 2016, 2017, working at Playboy and saying things that they got me on the wrong side of people on the left. And that was surprising to me. And then I would say things that would kind of make the right mad because I was working at Playboy, and there were always people up on the right who were saying that I was like the downfall of, mankind, and it's women like me who are the reason that society is collapsing, and all the things that you hear from the right wing when you're a sexually liberated woman writing for Playboy. And so that was why I don't think it, I think I'd seen things from both sides that just led me to believe people are people. We're gonna, right. Okay, so I'm gonna get crap from here, crap from there. I was more surprised from some of the people on the left, just that being where my tribe was. And And I don't think I understood how untouchable it was to go to talk to somebody on the right. I just didn't understand. And that kind of worked to my benefit that I didn't understand that it was. And then I was like, I don't care.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm in the journalism class I took that I got kicked out of. I do remember a couple of things. One of which was that you should always go talk to people on your own and make up your own mind. And so I went on Ben's show, which was, it's funny. This is what I'm writing about now too. Because I'd never done a media hit. I know, and they put on like it was like total Fox makeup, big eyelashes. I didn't really even look like myself.
They made you put a blonde wig on.
Yeah. I might be the only brunette that's ever appeared. There was a thing in your ear, and every answer it was almost like a game show. It was like rapid fire. I've since learned that this is not the norm, but there was like, you got asked a question and then there was a time, and then there was a giant screen of you right off camera. I mean, the whole thing was
That's distracting.
And my friend was like, just don't blank. It's not a big deal. Just don't blank. And the first question Ben asked me, I just like stared at him. And I could see him looking at me because he's so sharp and he's been doing this since he was 7. And he's like just looking at me like, you dumb idiot. I swear to God, if you blow this right now. I recovered. And you probably couldn't even tell, but for me it felt like when you sank into the sunken place and like get out. That's how it felt. That's how it feels when you blank on stage or on camera. You're like, no.
Rated R. I haven't seen it. But so you said you were writing for Playboy and all these people on the left were getting mad at you?
Because I didn't know that you couldn't say things like real man. I didn't. And I
so
wrote.
Are these all
They are some of the headlines. I remember.
That's what I'm curious is like the readers of Playboy. Like I don't.
The men didn't care.
Okay.
It was like it was more the.
Because I'm picturing this social justice guy.
the women
like, I need social justice in my issue of Playboy.
Some of the dudes
like
didn't like that either on the left.
Okay.
Like the male feminists. They weren't too keen on some of the stuff I was writing, and I was really trying to write to the red-blooded American male. And I grew up with Maxim, and that's where I wanted to write. So I came stumbling out of the 90s. I'm like, and this is what it's like to be a real man, and didn't understand why people were getting mad at me. I never studied gender studies. I didn't even know that was a thing.
Right. Well, it wasn't.
It was news to me when I found out that this was something you could get a degree in. And
for the homeschoolers, Maxim and Playboy are, well, talk to your parents.
Sorry, I know it's always you always have me on, and it's the blue show.
We get some interesting replies.
I'm sure. I believe in God, though. So that's my.
That means you're better than who have we had that doesn't believe in God? James Lindsay, maybe. You're better than James Lindsay.
Barely, though. That was surprising to me. Was kind of getting some of the headlines were I can't really even say them, but she dates a-holes because you're a P word. I sound like Ben Shapiro right now.
You can say it. And it'll just get.
We'll bleep it.
Have you heard? We have the guy that says the word over your word.
Oh yeah,
he's like donkey.
Yeah,
so
or bad.
She dates. So one of the first early ones was she dates
donkey
because you're a
donkey,
and that was the one that ran me afoul of the left. And apparently men's rights activists weren't huge fans of that either, which I would have thought. Now looking back, I'm surprised by that, but they didn't. They didn't like that.
They like that, right?
No, they didn't
like that.
They didn't like that. Yeah, because they were saying I was implying that they were beta males, basically.
The single ones. Does this have incel crossover? Because that's a community I'm very interested in. You say you've been attacked by the incels. Like, are they do they have groups? Like, they meet up?
I'm not sure really anymore. Does anyone meet up? I mean, we're not meeting up.
like
we're
online.
not meeting up.
Yeah.
I'm a hologram that
This is a Zoom call.
that Kanye made for me. Oh my gosh, that reminds me of the time that I got confused for a person that Kanye was talking about in a lyric. This actually happened. I was writing for Playboy. I woke up. It was during his Life of Pablo album that came out. I wake up and I have all these text messages. Bridget, what did you do to Kanye? I'm like, what? From all my family members and friends on the East Coast. And some Pitchfork editor made the mistake of thinking he reviewed the album and he said, oh, there's this lyric that is something Bridget, which is just a generic name for a white girl. And he said that it was in reference to me, Bridget Phetasy, comedian and whatever I was at the time, writer for Playboy, because of my history with, it was because he must have Googled my name and seen the article about Bill Cosby. And so I wrote an article called Bill Cosby Raped Me Kind of. It's clickbait, I know. But it was basically when all of that stuff was first coming out about Bill Cosby, I was having a very strange reaction to it. And I just wrote about it. And this was before, it was like 2013 or 2014, pre-Playboy even. So I write through a lot of my own confusion. That's how I try to make sense of things. And I was like, this is a very strange reaction I'm having to all these women coming out. I was like, it's a little late now, ladies. Meanwhile, this story is exactly what happened to me. I mean, exactly what happened to me. And so in writing this piece, I was like, oh, this is all like internalized shame that I've never dealt with. And I'm projecting it on these women because if 17 women came out from Minnesota and accused the person that I never accused of doing this, I would definitely support them and say this thing happened to me too. So me too. See what I did there? Yeah, we should start a hashtag, guys. And so so that was how he must have just Googled Bridget and Bill Cosby, because I think Bill Cosby was in this lyric too. And then that came up and went no further than that. Didn't do any research at all. So then the review came out and I woke up and like my editor's like, don't say anything. Like, why can't I say it? I was telling people this story recently. They're like, that's amazing. There's still correction in the Pitchfork review.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah. That was crazy.
Does Kanye West know who you are?
Well, that's why I was joking, because I was like, I bet Kanye knows who I am now because of that.
Because of that.
Yeah.
You've sat in the same chair.
Hence why he made my hologram.
Kanye doesn't strike me as the kind of guy that reads album reviews, though.
I don't know. He kind of strikes me as the kind of guy that does.
Really?
Secretly.
He seems like the kind of guy that would Google his name or so. You know,
I don't know.
People on Twitter who look up their names. What are you doing? I don't understand that.
Yeah,
but a lot of people do this.
Ethan's got an ongoing search on his tweet deck. He does.
I get like 3 a month, maybe. Though. So.
That is my nightmare.
But he has to know if he's going to get canceled, because in the comic, like you have to know if they.
It's just interesting to see why would somebody bring my name up in like
just in another conversation.
It's usually like that Ethan Nicole's a right.
Yeah, you get that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Right wing crazy.
They got to make sure if somebody says, "Oh, Axe Cop was a great comic," and they go, "I just need to make sure you understand who you're supporting."
Yeah, no, there's no separation of the artist from the art anymore. That is not allowed. Yep. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, that's one reason I wanted to. I mean, you're funny. I wanted to have you on to do voices for our cartoons, and we don't like share all the same values and stuff, but purely just on your talent, I'm like. Playing out my own values, like I want to have people that are good.
Well, we probably share.
What values do?
Yeah, we probably share.
Like,
we share a ton of values. I think we in the Christian community. There's, which I don't even know.
Welcome
what that means.
to our Christian community.
Yeah, it's controversial.
Someone comes in just in an all white robe.
It's controversial to encourage people to engage in, or I mean, just to say, oh, recommending you to people, like because of sexual content and stuff like that.
I was wondering about this because I wondered too, this is something that's been interesting for me to contemplate in going on right-wing media, is that you guys are taking a risk too. Mm-hmm. When the left wing won't have me on, because apparently I've talked to people on the right wing, when I actually going on places like Glenn Beck with my history and my organizations that I've been affiliated with, they could easily say, oh, we won't have anything to play the same game, guilt by association. We won't talk to this girl or have anything to do with her, because it probably has cost them some subscribers, and maybe you guys too. But being able to have these conversations, I think, across the lines is what is important to the fabric of our society. And I reckon that we probably share more values than we don't if we talk about fundamental freedoms and rights to just kind of live. There are probably some gray areas, obviously, and then there are some where we just maybe disagree completely, but maybe not as much as you might think. Mm-hmm. And I think 20-year-old Bridget versus 42-year-old Bridget that conversation would change a lot. Mm-hmm. My values have evolved in 20 years. So I think one of the things that I've become the most aware of is my change in, I feel like I don't want to blame the culture. This isn't me being like a victim, but I do feel that the culture lied to me in a weird way of like sleeping my way to empowerment. Like, I don't think that that's true. And if I had a daughter, I would make her understand that there are double standards, obviously, with men and women. And I've often pushed back against those because I don't think they're fair. But I also think that as a woman, it's definitely something that I don't think it's good for men either. I just think like the promiscuity for me, and I can only speak to myself, has been something that I really had to work around, and I had to there was tons of shame that came with it. Some of that was being raised Catholic and kind of having shame around sexuality before I was even able. Some of it was reacting to the sexual assault and trying to take some of the power back. It's so complicated, but one of the things that I don't think is healthy messaging for young women is that if you're feeling disempowered, that sleeping with men and not caring is somehow going to make that better. If you're coming from a place of empowerment, go for it. Like, go do whatever. But if you're trying to fill a hole, but no pun intended. I apologize. Bleep that.
Somehow.
If you're trying to fill something, then it's generally going to make that worse and aggravate it. In my experience, I'm not speaking for everyone, and I know there would be tons of pushback, but that's one area where I regret being a slut, and that's hard to say in this culture because on the other hand, I don't like slut shaming. So I, again, weirdly occupy this crazy, I'm wrestling with a lot of that stuff myself. And even I think just being in a healthy relationship, it's, I'm glad that I had all the single years of my life, but I also don't think, and coming from divorce, I don't think I ever really gave any real weight to how important and amazing that can be to have like a supportive partner and how that can be something that's really good. I really always was like, I'm single forever and made that part of my identity, and having to let go of that has been a lot of heavy lifting and therapy. So yeah, I that's my long answer to, I'm certain that I've evolved in a lot of my thinking about things that I think we should change, and grow. But yeah, I do think that it occurred to me that maybe I would get, attacked or mislabeled as one thing or another for appearing on conservative media. But it also occurred to me that they were taking a risk by even having me on. You know, Ben, if you Google me, there's a lot of scandalous stuff from the conservative media point of view. Not horrible, but it's in a definite like blue zone. And that for people who are highly brand concerned, which everybody is now, it can be a risk.
Yeah, like Focus on the Family wouldn't have you on probably, like some big Christian radio station or something.
Yeah, but I also think that I try to look for the lanes where, this is why I think Ben Shapiro was so smart in putting me where he put me literally in the middle between woman who is on my right and a woman who's on my left.
Subtle, very subtle.
Yeah, it was great. I think the visual representation is important. And he also knew what my lane was. We were talking about Kanye, who keeps coming up, and we were talking about like sexual assault. I'm not a policy wonk. I'm not going to start talking about. Yeah. So he knew where to position me, and that was great. I was more nervous when I went on Gavin McGinnis, because he, at that point, he wasn't stigmatized as extremely as he is, because that happened the night after I did his show, actually. Okay. Another hilarious story. But he still had that kind of stigma. I don't think he'd been banned from all the platforms yet and deplatformed. He was still around. So, but I had loved him when he was writing for Vice. I mean, people forget that he was like, when I was writing about a topic that I probably shouldn't bring up, he was like the gold standard. His article of Vice was like the gold standard for men to get advice about this particular topic. And
I'm intrigued. We probably don't know what it is. So
no, it's probably something you've never heard of.
Yep.
So I was just like, wow, I want to meet this guy. So kind of started Vice. He was like a hipster, and the whole time we were, but also he was this guy that men had referenced when they're like, oh, you're just a 40-year-old with dried up ovaries, and that's why you're that, because he kind of would go on those tangents a lot about just how all 40-year-olds who don't have babies go crazy. I'm like, I know a lot of women who have babies who went crazy too. Like, crazy does not really, it doesn't pick and choose male, female, whether you're a female who's had babies or not. And so that felt, I was like, have you ever met my mom? Clearly not. She had 5. And we drove her crazy.
There's this weird concept now of like platforming, like if you have someone on, you're platforming them. Yeah. And I don't think that was a thing, I don't know, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. The New York Times wrote a profile on us, and they're not to brag or anything.
Yeah, I saw that.
But and then all the libs in their comments are like, and the replies are like, how dare you platform and popularize this site, and blah, blah. And it's like, you're just writing about something.
Yeah.
Like, this is a thing that exists, and people are like, how dare you? Like, it's strange. And I think it's kind of a value on the left, which is why you see that, like, on the right, like, we don't feel like we're like
platforming me
and putting on this pedestal, like, go consume everything Bridget Phetasy has ever done, but it's like, we want to hear what you have to say.
Yeah. Well, I don't see why that shouldn't be controversial. Right. It's weird that we live in a time where that is controversial. And even when I was talking to Gavin, he kept being like, you and me, we're the same. I'm like, nah. Okay.
You're scooting.
Simmer down. But I do understand what he means in that we both come from the left, and kind of all of a sudden we're like these Gen Xers who got lost in the culture war and then, just excommunicated from our tribe. And I do think one of the things that I've had to really take an inventory of is not being too reactive, because it's easy to feel rejected and then react and be like, I can overreact. And even today, the piece that I wrote, as somebody in the mentions was like, you're laying it on a little thick there, lady, aren't you? A, it's satire in 2020, which means if I'm not overtly satirizing something, people are going to think that it's real. I have to lay it on so thick, it's obvious within the first couple of sentences that this is not real. because otherwise people are going to be like, I can't believe this is real. Look at these libs patting themselves on the back for surviving Normandy.
But then it gets mistaken for real news. Snopes fact checks it, and all the grandmas on Facebook share it, and you make a lot of money.
Oh, okay. I still haven't figured out how to cash in on any of this, but everyone around me seems to be doing well, and I'm happy for them. It's been that. So that was a weird. That was strange. And then once I did Glenn's radio show for a borderline. It was actually more cheeky than satire. It was about not stop wasting your money on college. And then I did his radio show and we had so much fun. It was just fun. We were laughing so hard and he's very funny. And so then he had me on to talk about all kinds of things on his, and we talked a lot about addiction. And, that's the other thing that I get upset about when the left wing will come after me. I'm like, I will go anywhere and talk about recovery. And this is an area where I feel like right-wing media loses out because they are so focused on the culture wars that a lot of these kind of social issues and problems that the left has tons of language around and articles and the benefit of like self-care and how to help yourself in addiction, all of this stuff. But if you're not reading left-wing media, which generally you're not really getting those kinds of articles or that kind of help or support. And I think it's important to go talk. I'm like, I'll go talk about addiction anywhere. Addiction doesn't care whether you're red or blue or purple or whatever. It affects all of us. And depression and anxiety and hypochondria and relationship stuff and, free speech and comedy. These are kind of the umbrella lanes that I try very hard to stay in because I think they affect all of us, no matter who we are. And that we shouldn't be shaming people for, crossing the divide and having a conversation on, I don't know, would you guys get in trouble for going on like Jimmy Kimmel?
No. No.
I don't think so. Yeah.
They wouldn't have us on. See, they would get in trouble forever.
Yeah, they'd get in trouble, I assume. That's the weird thing. Yeah.
But Jimmy, if you're...
But what is the...
Jimmy is definitely watching.
Kanye? If you're
I mean, I don't know if it's because the culture that's in power, I don't know if they have a fear of losing that power by letting other people talk or what it is. Like, what is it that makes... Because it does seem like when I was growing up, it was probably more the other way around. That the right was a little more... They played it safer. They didn't, they were a lot more legalistic and more into the censoring thing. And it's just shifted. So I don't know what drives that, the whole don't platform that person idea. Is it that the left is just scared? Is it fear?
I don't know. There's a lot of the thing that gets referenced a lot is Oprah having a member of I think she had a white supremacist or she platformed somebody and then she's kind of lived to regret it. And so a lot of people reference Oprah learning from using her platform to try and reach across the aisle, and it ended up having a different effect than she thought it would have, and just giving them a voice. And I disagree with the idea that everyone deserves a platform.
Right.
So I fall somewhere in the middle of, I don't really like this idea of censoring because I think it makes people more interesting and it makes people more curious about them inevitably. Same with books or anything. Music, we've seen this. And I just think in general, people can make up their minds, but I don't know in this new world with algorithms and things like that, and things that are shaping our brains that we don't even really know are shaping our brains. But generally, I don't know that. I don't know. I don't really think like the depersoning of people and who gets to be the arbiter of that is what scares me.
Yeah.
So I agree that maybe some people shouldn't be able to they don't deserve to talk on somebody's platform that reaches 40 million people, but that doesn't mean they don't deserve to like have a Venmo account, you know? And that's kind of where we are. And that's what's scary is, and if you think that this is where I do think fighting for those for the people that you don't agree with the most is important, because if you think that you're somehow going to be left out of that, eventually it will all come for you. Even if you just age. You know, I look at all these young woke people and I'm like, give it 10, 15, 20. I mean, the way things are going now, give it 5 years and you're going to be getting canceled by the younger generation of you. It's dangerous.
We read G.K. Chesterton regularly.
G.K. Chesterton.
Well, Kyle doesn't come very much, but
working on it.
But he talked in one of the recent essays we were reading. G.K. Chesterton.
Right.
Yep. He talked about how the things we consider reasonable and rational just means what the culture accepts right now.
Right.
They're tomorrow's revolutions. So he even used the example, this is 100 years ago, that 2+, we take for granted that 2 + 2 = 4, but we'll be pulling out our swords and fighting for that truth tomorrow.
Yeah. Wow. Well, we might be actually.
Yeah.
That literally happening. That's literally happening.
Yeah, that's the insidiousness that I see. I mean, in some ways, not to get political, but in some ways, from my perspective of being in like the demilitarized zone, as you call it, which is hilarious, the wasteland of the center, the insidiousness that is coming from the left and this weird creeping authoritarianism that seems to be coming down on the West kind of everywhere, and it's terrifying. It's much easier for me to fight that if I'm also not like constantly dealing with like but Trump is blah blah blah. So it does make it easier for me to focus all of my attention on that one insidiousness instead of having to focus on two creeping hypocrisies at the same time. It's like, okay, we've got this over here and that's not really even where I come from. So I think you have to you guys do a great job of kind of calling balls and strikes even within your own team or whatnot. And I think that's really our role, particularly with satire and as comedians, is to kind of call out those hypocrisies where you see them from the people who are in power. Right. I mean, the stuff we're seeing from news, people are always like, why are you always going after Newsom and not Trump? I'm like, Newsom affects me directly. Yeah. I live in California. He affects people I know. Trump is like, what is it? And he wants us to be more open. If anything.
Such a tyrant.
Yeah. So dictator. They get mad at me when I'm like, this guy is like, I feel like he wakes up and just is like, who am I going to mess with today? Yeah. Restaurateurs. Let's do this.
It's insane.
Yeah, it's great.
Can we go off on Newsom for a while?
Oh, I will happily. I mean, I will make it my mission to make sure that man never. When you look at some of the stuff have you guys seen the like unemployment scandal that's going on, where people came from other states and they are basically it's all this fraud, and now people who need unemployment can't get it because there's such a huge backlog because our system is from probably the 1970s, and it's so upsetting. The most upsetting thing is people are like, today there was an article, oh my gosh, in Virginia, 75% of the kids who are the most vulnerable are getting Fs. Oh, you don't say. Like, everybody didn't call this. When I was growing up, my upbringing was a little chaotic, and school was, I remember walking home and dreading. And, I love my parents, and there's a lot of water under the bridge, but all is forgiven. They did the best they could. But when I was young, I would dread. I remember that walk down the driveway every single day, like vividly. I vividly remember being like, what am I going to come home to? And there are people who are like, oh, it's no big deal, blah, blah, blah. They don't understand there are tons of kids who are in that kind of circumstance. Yeah. Where their home life is like chaos, and school is actually kind of a relief for them. And it's hard to focus when you have little siblings who are screaming behind you, and you have I don't know. I mean, that's really why I fell off the rails of education. Was it's very hard to care about your grades when you have, you know, dysfunctional stuff going on at home.
Yeah.
And it's that kind of stuff where it's lip service to the vulnerable, and all of the vulnerable people are suffering. Small businesses are getting crushed. We're seeing all the kids slipping through the cracks who are in vulnerable communities. Special needs kids aren't getting the care that they need and deserve. I worked in that, and I don't know how any of these parents are doing this without all of that help. There's all of it's like all my friends who are waitresses and waiters. How many people in LA? Think of what an industry that is in this town.
Yeah.
It is like how many musicians and people in fashion and people in every single creative industry come here, and that's their job. And now they're probably all living at home, I would guess, or had to go home. What are they doing? Mm-hmm. It's a huge backbone of our entire creative economy. So how many creatives have we lost? How many? It's just like the domino effect. I'm in recovery, as I've mentioned. So many people, you can't have, like, this is what's crazy to me. You can have 1,000 people at a concert, but you can't have 10 people at an AA meeting or go to church. It's like, why are you taking people's coping mechanisms from them? Why are you taking things that I've seen so many people relapse in this time? Depression's increasing. I had Johan Hari on, you know, he wrote Lost Connections, and he wrote another book about the war on drugs, but he writes a lot about depression and addiction. And he was saying these are two things that were already on the rise in America leading up to the lockdowns, and the lockdowns have exacerbated all of this. But we really need to look at what's going on, that this stuff was already on the rise. I mean, we had the most overdoses this year than ever by like the summer. I mean, it's, and then if you say this, you're like, oh, so you're a COVID truther, I guess. I guess you think this is a hoax. No, I'm not. You can hold both of these things, and you should be evaluating both of these things. A good leader would be looking at all of these things and not just saying, hey, we're going to lock everything down. Good luck. Here's your $1,200 for like how many months has it been?
Yeah.
I mean, people should, if you want to be out in the streets protesting, this is the stuff you should be protesting.
Yeah.
Because it's outrageous. But most of the people, it's outrageous. I think everyone's just like worn down.
Yeah, and if it wasn't political, I think there'd be a lot more protesting. People see it as I'm on this team, so I'm on wear my mask and obey.
Isn't it weird? You see someone's Twitter avatar, and if they're wearing a mask, you know
you
what side
immediately
they're on.
know. Yeah.
Isn't that weird?
Oh wow, that's it's like the pronouns in the bio.
It's like the pronouns, yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody, I think it was Sal the Algorist, or he had it was from the Hunger Games, and he's like, when you see someone out in public without a mask, and it's like the Hunger Games sign, you know, like
salute.
That's team member. Yeah, it was funny. It's there again, for people talking about science, when, you know, let's just talk about the restaurants. The science is that there are very little outbreaks in restaurants. They've spent thousands of dollars to try and accommodate all of the whims of the overlords, just to make it so they could go outside.
They're building these outside arenas for people to eat in, these like pop-ups or whatever. And then they're like, oh yeah, let's shut down.
Most of the outbreaks by the state's own records are at Subways, McDonald's, they're fast food places. They're not even at these.
A lot of traffic, people walking in and out.
It's so frustrating.
Yeah.
It's very, I mean, I could go off on Newsom. I just feel like, again, same thing with like the firefighting, when you really dig down into that, and it's like, oh, this is all just climate. No, actually, locally, people have been begging you to deal with some of this forest management for years. And you just are ignoring them and not letting them do what needs to be done. And you also haven't dealt with freaking PG&E or whatever, and all of their equipment that's horrible and starts entire towns on fire.
Are you okay? We need a break.
I'm gonna start.
I just wanted to say that he has stupid hair gel.
Well, he does.
Yeah,
that
true.
too.
That was my main thing.
Yeah.
He's so schmarmy. Even when he was saying sorry about his French laundry incident,
Gosh.
he was smiling.
Yeah.
when you're smiling and apologizing, I know you're not apologizing.
We all need to do better. And he smiles. It's like,
it's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, he is like an Adam Sandler movie villain. Like the name, the hair, everything about him, the grovelly voice. It's just like can he not see that he's that character? I don't know.
I mean, I lean into joking because when I don't, I go into, revolution, Bridget.
Yeah. Let's do it. Let's go.
And I don't know how to start a revolution.
Yeah, I don't either.
It's like the saddest.
I'm trying to think. Like, can you come up with like masks off May or something with like a cool hashtag? May's far away. I was just trying to alliterate.
Now I'm depressed.
Well, I wanted to do Offtober, but it's too late.
October.
No Mask November.
No Mask November. Well, what's next?
D-Mask December.
D-Mask December.
Boom, see?
Yeah. There we go. Let's start that one.
Like
quick.
Red line us.
You should write comedy.
Yeah, it's good for a living. So you're a COVID denier, you're a climate denier.
Yep. All these
Any
things.
other anti-science?
I belong on the right.
Welcome.
Yes.
One of us.
Have you shifted after becoming, since your Shapiro inauguration? Has any of your views shifted, having interacted with the right more? And
or is it just you're staying the same and everybody's moving?
Yeah.
No, I think I talk a lot. No, I don't think I knew what my values were. So that was one thing that was interesting, was being that I was really in a blackout for the better part of 2 decades. I was just floating along, and like I've said, just kind of my factory settings are that I just like pushed that blue button, and that was what I was raised with, and I didn't have to think too much about it. And I was really raised to be, like the right is evil, and the left is fighting for the good guy. So I think if anything, I've woken up, and this is actually a silver lining, I think, of the past 5 years in particular, is that there's so much migration happening ideologically and actually, and people are really waking up and asking themselves, what are my values? Because they've been pushed, so many people have been red pilled by the media, which I think is probably a good thing. And there are a lot of, one of the biggest examples for me of something that I've shifted on is like gun control. Because, and I say shifted in that I was anti-gun and had no idea. It was just a knee-jerk reaction. I'd come from that. And it was also just when there would be a school shooting, I would rightfully be like, this is bad, ban them all or whatever. And then after something happened and I realized, I just was like, I don't know anything about guns. I don't know how to shoot one. I don't know what the laws are in California. I'm out here spouting my mouth off and I know nothing. It was a very humbling moment. And so I reached out to my audience. This is when I was at Playboy, and I was like, how do you think we should solve this kind of what are your thoughts on the gun control debate? And what do you think we can do to make things better, or how do we prevent that? And I got so many emails, and there were thousands of words, and they were fascinating and just really interesting from people all over America and different states and people in California. And that made me realize, like, wow, I know nothing. And the past 5 years have really just been a repeated moment of me going, I know nothing, nothing. I know nothing. And I thought I knew a lot. And I think it's been just really kind of going back to school. My podcast has been education for me in many ways, just talking to so many people, but also having lots of experts on about different things. I really feel like I think I've always been intuitively, I was a lot of things, like a free speech warrior. But now I have started to learn more about what that actually looks like, what that means, and what these intersections of free markets, free speech, and technology, what that looks like, because that's not pretty or simple. So I just like it. I like that I feel, it's been very much like being a moron. I always joke that I come from the moron majority. Like those are my people. Where I was apolitical. I didn't have to be political. I didn't think too much about any of it. And I am now kind of I get to learn all over again. And that's kind of exciting for me. And I think we live in very strange, we live in interesting times. I always think of those creepy drones that were flying around China during the Wuhan virus in Wuhan. There were all these videos coming out and it was like, neighbor, we live in Chinese, obviously. They're like, neighbor, we live in interesting times. What are you doing outside? And it would be like a little Chinese person like scurrying into their apartment and looking at this like drone that was yelling at them. That's where we're headed. Anyway, guys, that's where we're headed.
You're getting close to Newsom welding us all in our homes.
No kidding. I know.
Getting ideas from there. Well, are we ready to go to subscriber? Are we ready for a subscriber launch? Well, he would pay someone to.
Yeah, I'd pay a guy.
Are we ready for subscriber launch?
Let's do it. Yeah, this is our first time we're going into.
We're going to go into our first official, real, actual subscriber launch.
We have any topics? Any topics we want to tease?
What juicy things can you tease that?
What should we?
Our paying subscribers will
talk about.
Ooh.
Said you believe in God. We could talk maybe a little about believing in God.
We're going to find out why you didn't vote and why you hate America.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're very passionate about brunch.
Very passionate about brunch.
Being bad.
There's no going back. You know what's funny? I hate brunch.
Yeah.
But now that AOC...
You're getting her going again. She's
not the contrarian to me. Now that AOC is like, there's no going back to brunch. I'm like, I love brunch.
Yeah.
I am pro brunch.
All right. Well, people can check out Bridget Phetasie's shows. Dumpster Fire. And Walk-In's Welcome. Yeah?
Walk-In's Welcome. It's audio.
Anything else you want to tell her?
I have a monthly column at Spectator Magazine, and I do a voice on this amazing, hilarious show.
Yeah.
What's it called? What's the name of the show? It's just Babylon Bee Animation right now. Right?
Yeah, we're changing the name. Oh, yeah, it's Babylon News Network. Is that one? We're going to be updating the name of that to The Talk Down with Guy Curtis.
Oh,
so
okay.
It's coming up. And
we don't let
and
the
she's
actors
also the
know
teenage. She's the teenage daughter on the
Family.
The Family. We don't have a name for them yet, but they're the Family.
The Family. That works.
She's the one who wants to go to
Except it kind of reminds me of that cult.
Welcome to the family.
Yeah.
All right,
everybody.
Here we go.
Subscriber Lounge. Let's go.
Coming up next for Babylon Bee subscribers.
Shirt that says you're not woke, you're annoying. And vote a dictator out. What are you even talking about, you lunatics? That is not how this works.
I'm still waiting for the Kraken to be released.
Are you?
I'm not 100% sure what the Kraken is. But
I was so confused by that. The Sidney Powell, she's like out there talking, and they're like, oh, she's not with us.
That's so
we don't know who this lady is.
Enjoying this hard-hitting interview? Become a Babylon Bee subscriber to hear the rest of this conversation. Go to babylonbee.com/plans for full-length, ad-free podcasts. Kyle and Ethan would like to thank Seth Dillon for paying the bills, Adam Ford for creating their job, the other writers for tirelessly pitching headlines, the subscribers, and you, the listener. Until next time, this is Dave D'Andrea, the voice of the Babylon Bee.